Dr. Athena qualified from Università di Studi di Roma La Sapienza in 2000 and worked as a general practitioner and staff-grade doctor in Greece before pursuing specialty training in general adult psychiatry in February 2007. She became a specialist in psychiatry after completing her training and worked in various psychiatric roles within Greece before moving to the UK in September 2013. In the UK, she worked as a staff-grade psychiatrist at the Priory Hospital in Middleton, St George, Darlington, followed by lead consultant psychiatrist at Signet Hospital in Taunton between November 2014 and July 2017. Since August 2017, she has worked as a consultant psychiatrist at various NHS trusts within the UK. During her time as a locum consultant psychiatrist at Avon and Wiltshire Mental Health Partnership NHS Trust via Pulse Recruitment, Dr. Athena consulted with patient A on the 24th of April and the 22nd of May 2018. After patient A's discharge on the 22nd of May 2018, Dr. Athena entered into an inappropriate emotional relationship with patient A between the 23rd of May 2018 and early July 2018. She communicated with patient A by phone, attended patient A's house, and engaged in an inappropriate relationship despite knowing patient A was vulnerable due to a mental health condition. Initial concerns were raised by a mental health nurse at Swindon Council, after patient A's referral to the Swindon Primary Care Liaison Service and a meeting on the 28th of December 2018. Patient A disclosed an alleged intimate relationship with Dr. Athena during the meeting, which was referred to the relevant safeguarding team. A trust investigation followed, during which Dr. Athena was interviewed and made some admissions. She was suspended pending further investigation. Dr. Athena was interviewed again on the 24th of January 2019, and at that meeting, she admitted to having had a personal relationship with patient A, which was intimate but did not involve sexual intercourse. The final report to the trust concluded that an improper personal relationship of an intimate nature had occurred. Subsequently, on the 25th of January 2019, the GMC received a referral regarding Dr. Athena's relationship with a male patient from Safeguarding Inquiry Manager at Swindon Borough Council. Dr. Athena was alleged to have engaged in an inappropriate emotional and physical relationship with a former male patient, who was vulnerable due to his mental health condition. Dr. Athena admitted to communicating with the patient, visiting their home, engaging in physical intimacy involving hugging, kissing, stroking and caressing, buying them food and household items, and being emotionally involved with them. At the start of the hearing, Dr. Athena accepted all the allegations framed in the charge sheet. The tribunal considered all evidence presented during the hearing, including witness statements and oral evidence from Dr. Athena and one witness on her behalf. The tribunal also analyzed various documentary evidence, such as safeguarding referral forms, investigation reports, and GMC guidance. Dr. Athena also provided certificates for the completion of training courses and patient/360 feedback. Additionally, testimonials were submitted from 4 witnesses who were not called to give oral evidence. The patient was not involved in the proceedings. The counsel, representing the GMC, argued that Dr. Athena's conduct constituted serious misconduct, and a finding of impairment was required. He cited the case law of Roylance v. GMC to define misconduct as conduct that falls short of what is proper in the circumstances. He referred to the GMC's guidance on maintaining professional boundaries between doctors and patients and pointed out that Dr. Athena had involved herself in an improper personal and physical relationship with patient A vulnerable former patient. He stated that the capacity for mental harm to patient A was huge and that harm was evidenced by him having to return for further mental health treatment after the relationship had ended. The counsel argued that Dr. Athena's actions were inconsistent with the overarching objective to protect patients and referred to paragraph 1 of Good Medical Practice, 2013, to support his argument. He acknowledged Dr. Athena's efforts to address and remediate her conduct but stated that there was a real risk of repetition of her conduct in the absence of support. He submitted that only a finding of impairment could properly deal with Dr. Athena's misconduct and maintain confidence in both the practitioner and the profession, citing the case law of Young v. GMC. The counsel for Dr. Athena argued that while her conduct amounted to misconduct, she had shown deep regret and insight into her actions. He emphasized that the patient was a former patient, not a current one, and that their relationship was emotional but not sexual. He argued that good medical practice only refers to current patients in the context of inappropriate relationships. He stated that the guidance regarding former patients was more ambiguous and that there was a significant and important difference between relationships with current and former patients. He also argued that there was no conclusive evidence that the end of the relationship caused harm to the patient. The council stated that Dr. Athena had done extensive remediation work and had fully reflected on the professional boundaries, which she was not aware of at the time. He argued that a finding of no impairment and a warning would be sufficient in this case. The supplementary guidance emphasizes the importance of trust in the doctor-patient partnership and provides factors to consider before pursuing a personal relationship with a former patient, including the length of time since the professional relationship ended, the nature of the previous professional relationship, the vulnerability of the patient, and the potential for abuse of power and the professional position. The tribunal found Dr. Athena to be a credible and honest witness who accepted her wrongdoing and fully cooperated throughout the investigation. The tribunal accepted her evidence regarding the steps taken to remediate her conduct. The evidence of Dr. B, an experienced consultant psychiatrist and Dr. Athena's clinical supervisor, was also accepted by the tribunal, who noted his positive views on Dr. Athena's risk of repeating her conduct. The tribunal also considered positive testimonials provided by Dr. Athena's clinical colleagues attesting to her good character and work.
Dr. Athena had a brief emotional relationship with a vulnerable patient to whom she had been providing emotional support to. Although it was not a sexual relationship, it had progressed to kissing and stroking. The tribunal accepted that Dr. Athena had been supporting her own emotional needs as well. The patient had a borderline personality disorder and suffered from abandonment issues, and the ending of the relationship caused some distress to him and exposed him to the risk of psychiatric harm. Dr. Athena admitted that she knew of patient A's vulnerable condition, and the tribunal concluded that some harm resulted from her actions. The tribunal found that Dr. Athena's actions amounted to professional misconduct and that she ought to have realized that the patient was likely to misunderstand the emotional support she was providing him. The tribunal acknowledged the amount of detailed reflection and discussion that Dr. Athena had undertaken since the events of 2018 and concluded that she had fully developed her insight and shown remorse and apologized for her conduct. The tribunal considered that this was an exceptional case of falling into error and not evidence of deeper-seated issues. The tribunal determined that Dr. Athena had done all that one could reasonably be expected to do to remedy her misconduct. The tribunal considered that Dr. Athena had learned from this experience and was unlikely to repeat such conduct in the future. However, the tribunal also acknowledged that by entering into a relationship with a patient, Dr. Athena had breached a fundamental tenet of the profession and caused harm to the patient. The tribunal considered the proximity of the discharge of the patient and the start of the relationship and the factors for consideration set out in the supplemental guidance, which should have warned against commencing a relationship. The tribunal ultimately considered the public interest and whether a well-informed member of the public would expect a finding of impairment given the circumstances of this case. Accordingly, the tribunal found that Dr. Athena's fitness to practice is currently impaired by reason of her misconduct. The tribunal took into account evidence received during earlier stages of the hearing and has received further evidence on behalf of Dr. Athena, which included the determination of another doctor's case by another tribunal, dated October 2016, and an article from the British Medical Journal regarding the case of same doctor. The GMC submitted that the appropriate sanction, in this case, is one of suspension, citing breaches of professional boundaries by Dr. Athena, and reminding the tribunal to consider the least restrictive sanction first and move upwards before stopping at the one that the tribunal determines is applicable. The GMC also submitted that conditions are not appropriate in this case, and a period of suspension is the only appropriate sanction. The GMC further submitted that a finding of impairment alone would not send a strong enough message to the public and members of the profession that behavior and conduct of this kind is inappropriate. The defense counsel argued that a suspension would be disproportionate in this case, and the tribunal should consider the mitigating factors. He stated that Dr. Athena had shown full insight, remediation, and a sophisticated understanding of her mistake. Moreover, the events had arisen due to difficult personal issues that Dr. Athena was dealing with at the time, including isolation, relationship breakdown, and multiple bereavements. He submitted that Dr. Athena's case was exceptional and that taking no action was the right thing to do. He argued that the continuity of care and therapeutic relationship that Dr. Athena had with her patients would be disrupted if a suspension were imposed on her registration. Additionally, the service would suffer if Dr. Athena were unable to continue working. He also pointed out that Dr. Athena had already been working under conditions for over a year, including the onerous condition of supervision, to which she had assiduously adhered. Finally, he mentioned that if the tribunal were to conclude that a period of suspension was necessary, then it should be for the very shortest period possible and be measured in weeks and not in months. The tribunal considered both aggravating and mitigating factors, including Dr. Athena's abuse of her professional position, harm caused to the patient, and significant personal circumstances. The tribunal also considered relevant guidance, including good medical practice and supplementary guidance, and rejected the argument that Dr. Athena had only preached the supplementary guidance. The tribunal determined that the appropriate sanction should be imposed to uphold the overarching objective and balance the interests of Dr. Athena and the public. The tribunal rejected the argument for consistency with a previous case and determined that each case should be decided on its own merits. The tribunal concluded that Dr. Athena had breached a fundamental tenet of the medical profession by engaging in an inappropriate emotional and physical relationship with a former patient. This was a serious breach of good medical practice, and the tribunal determined that a period of suspension was necessary and proportionate. The purpose of the suspension is to maintain public confidence and uphold standards. Although the harm caused to the patient was at the lower end of the scale, the tribunal considered that it was appropriate to impose a relatively short period of suspension of 2 months. The tribunal accepted both counsel's submissions that erasure was not the appropriate sanction in this case, taking into account that Dr. Athena had fully remediated her misconduct.